Hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Vibrant Voice. I am your host, Amber Rose West. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about the 3 keys to creating a confident voice. I know the show is called Vibrant Voice. We talk a lot about how it is that you can create a stronger speaking voice, but I want to today specifically talk about creating a confident voice. This year, I've been attending numerous networking events, and I'm not the best at starting conversations. When a conversation gets started, I can jump in, I can be present, I can communicate, but starting the conversation is a little bit different for me. This year, I decided that I was going to take on the starting conversations, meeting people, and networking challenge that I have for myself head on. And one of the pieces of feedback that I keep getting at the networking events that I'm going to is, you speak so well. You always seem to know what you're saying. And I think that kind of is an interesting thing to think about, right? You always seem to know what you're saying. But what I'm really realizing about this comment is not so much that I know what I'm saying, but it's that I speak confidently. And people are always surprised when I'm speaking to them how differently their voices seem compared to my voice, right? And so I was thinking about this a little bit more. What does it mean to have a confident voice? And while I may always know what it is that I'm saying or how I can carry a conversation, the most important part of this story is that I developed my voice, right? When I was young, my voice was loud. It was very loud all the time, but I don't think that I was ever saying anything that conversationally people would want to listen to. It's just that I had a loud voice. As I got older, I refined it to be more conversational, to be more of a leadership tool, something that I can use when I'm communicating with other people, this confident voice that backs the things that I'm saying. So when people say to me, you always seem to know what you're saying, what I hear in my head actually is that I have a confident voice behind what it is that I'm saying. I've learned the best ways to communicate myself and how to use my confident voice to convey the messages that I have when I'm speaking to other people. So today we're going to talk about creating a confident voice. But first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about the myths that I hear around creating a confident voice. The first one that I hear a lot is, I just don't have it. And this belief that you either have a confident voice or you don't, that you're born with it, or it's something that you developed as a kid and that was nurtured when you were a child. And that if you don't have a confident voice, that you can't, or that it's just not something that's accessible to you. But the truth about having a confident voice is that it's a skill that can be learned. And then once you learn it and you practice it, it becomes more second nature for you, right? It just is the way that you communicate. It is the voice that you use. The second myth that I hear quite a bit actually is that confident voices are for extroverts only, or that if you're an extrovert that you automatically have a confident voice. But the truth is that introverts use their voices differently. I love talking about confident voices and speaking with introverts because some of them automatically think that because they're introverted, this world of speaking confidently isn't for them, right? We're going to leave that to the extroverts. We're going to leave that to the ones that are loud, the ones that are loud and out there. But the truth about it is that from what I've learned about the introverts that I've worked with is that their voices are different and sometimes they're better because introverts tend to be a little bit more decisive with how it is that they use their voice. If you haven't used your voice before, this is part of a self-discovery, right? If you haven't used your voice before, I'm sure that you use your voice quite often. But if you're developing your confident voice, it comes with self-discovery about how it is that you want to develop the voice that you have. There are some introverts, there are some quiet people that I know that have some of the most confident voices that I've ever heard. So I don't want you to believe that if you're not an extrovert or you're not a performer or you're not someone that wants to be in the spotlight, that a confident voice isn't something that you can attain. You absolutely can. And sometimes it's a little bit better than those of us who are loud and performers and always in the spotlight. The third is that you believe that your voice has to be a certain way in order for people to want to listen to it. I believe that this myth comes from social media, media in general, but I think now social media has definitely taken this to a more personal level where we feel like only certain kinds of voices can do this, can have a podcast, can have a YouTube channel, can be a teacher in a classroom, can be a public speaker at a retreat or a summit. We believe that these voices need to be a certain kind of way in order for people to want to listen to them, and that's just not true. Here we're going to be talking about creating an authentic voice. Yes, we want it to be confident. Yes, we want it to have energy behind it. But at the end of the day, your voice is your voice, and that's one of the most beautiful things about it. You're the only person on this planet that has your voice. And so rather than thinking about whether it's better than someone else's or if someone else's is better than yours, we want to focus on the authenticity piece of this whole thing of creating your voice. This is usually backed by knowing the reason for your speaking. Once you know the reason for your speaking, your voice will begin to develop that authenticity behind how it is that you use your voice, the things that you say, the words that you say, the messages that you say. It'll all be getting support once that authenticity kicks into it. So now that we've talked about the myths, what is a confident voice? So there are lots of people that talk. People talk all the time. People want to open their mouths. People have things to say. They have opinions. They have comments. I want to talk. I want to talk. I want to talk. What are these people actually saying? There's a difference between people that talk and people that talk with a purpose, right? As we get into talking a little bit more about the confidence piece of this, I want this to stay at the top of your mind. Are you talking just to talk? Or is there a reason behind you using your voice? Is there a purpose behind the message that you're sharing? People talk all the time. Are they actually saying anything? You're going to be talking. As you're talking, what is it that you're saying? Who is it that you're saying it to? Why is it that you feel the need to say it? Is there a purpose? Is there a reason? As we talk about this confidence piece here, for those of you who know me from my confidence coaching, this is going to be a little bit of a refresher for you, but I absolutely love talking about confidence, especially when it comes to having a confident speaking voice. Why do I focus so much on the confidence piece when developing a strong speaking voice? Because public speaking coaching can give you all the speaking skills in the world. And there are so many people that have done public speaking classes. They've worked with the coach. They figured out all the tools and dynamics that they need to be a public speaker or to use their voice in public. But they're still not doing it. And why is that? It's the lack of confidence. That's the biggest barrier to using a confident voice. So I'm going to talk about some of the most common confidence crushers that I have experienced with the people that I've worked with, specifically around developing a strong confident speaking voice. And the very first one that comes up most often, don't take it for the buzzword that it is, it actually is something that I handle so often with the people that I work with. It's imposter syndrome of the voice. Now, imposter syndrome can take many forms, but it's one of the biggest confidence crushers that hits people who are trying to use their voice confidently. Here, I want to talk about it specifically with your voice and how it is that imposter syndrome tries to quiet you down. Okay. I like to think of imposter syndrome as imposter voices in my head. They're separate from my voice. Now, the imposter voices, this imposter syndrome that's in your head, your imposter voices, they're very sneaky. They're very, very sneaky. They like to get into your head. They know exactly what to say to quiet you down. They know exactly what to say to make it so that you don't want to use your voice. And if you've had your imposters inside of your head for a long time, they can begin to take on the sound of your own voice. But I want you to know that your imposter syndrome and the imposter voices in your head actually are separate from your authentic voice. And it's up to you to figure out which ones are imposters and which ones are your voice. And I will say this, One of the easiest ways to figure out which one is which inside of your head is to ask yourself the question of whether or not what your imposter voice is saying is something that you want to be true for you, right? Imposters will say things like, "Who do you think you are?" They might say something like, "No one wants to hear what you have to say." Right? If you have your imposters and comparison working together inside your head, you may hear something like, "Other people are doing it better, so why bother?" Right? When these thoughts hit my brain, which they do, sometimes I have my own imposter syndrome and my own comparison, and I'm a public speaking coach, right? They still come up every once in a while, and I have to say to myself, do I want that to be true for me? Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Do I want that to be true for me? If the answer is no, then I know that that's an imposter voice, because I know that there are people who want to hear what I have to say. I've met many of you. I see you listening to this show. So there are people who want to hear what I have to say, right? So in that question, I can draw the line between that's an imposter voice, that's an imposter thought, and what is it that I want to be true? What is it that is actually true, right? And that's the support for my authentic voice coming out. The second confidence crusher that I encounter quite a bit is perfectionism. I once worked with a woman who wanted to start a YouTube channel. And she said she didn't want to do it because as she was watching videos of herself speaking, she realized that she was talking out of the side of her mouth. Like, this was kind of how she spoke. And that was just the natural configuration of her mouth and her face. And she was embarrassed. She said, "People are not going to want to watch this, or people are going to make fun of me, or I just wish that my mouth would do something different, but it won't." And so I was talking to her about the impact of perfectionism on these feelings. We are the most judgmental of ourselves. We are the most critical of ourselves in every single way. We will look at a video of ourselves speaking and we see so many things that other people don't see. And even if people do see those things, they don't impact the person listening to you in the way that you think it does. One of the things about perfectionism is that this concept of perfect is a constantly moving target. And so we think, if I could just do this, right? Let's take this example of this woman who was speaking out of the side of her mouth. If I just didn't speak out of the side of my mouth, it would all be perfect. Right? But okay, let's just say that happened. Let's just say that she went from talking out of the side of her mouth into her whole mouth, and okay, then what would be next that wouldn't make it perfect? There'd be something else. Is it my hair? Is it the way that my eyes look? Is it me looking at my notes? Like, what is it about this that makes it not perfect? Right? The idea of perfection is a constantly moving target, and every time we've kind of wiped a bit of that imperfection off the list, there's something else that's going to make it imperfect, right? One of the things that I absolutely love about my yoga studio is we practice imperfect perfection, right? Imperfect action, because the concept of perfect doesn't exist. So being able to take imperfect action is taking action. And when we release this concept of being perfect, we're actually making progress. Imperfect action allows you to continue moving forward. When we're talking about creating your confident voice, every little bit of practice that you do, every class that you teach, every event that you speak at, all of that is leading you through progress. Right? We're not trying to hit perfect because perfect doesn't exist. It's not a thing. And every time you think you've hit perfect, there's another thing for you to go, I wish that would have been more perfect, right? If we embrace the fact that we are making progress, even with its imperfections, it allows us to develop a stronger, more confident speaking voice all along the way. It's not, I don't have it, now I do have it. It's that I'm progressing towards having a more confident voice every single time that I use it. And lastly, here, the third confidence crusher that I hear quite a bit is of comparison. Again, I'm going to come back to this concept of social media. It's so easy to get caught up in comparison when social media is such a focal point, especially for those of us who are business owners. It's such a focal point of our ability to connect with other people. And so we spend so much time there because we want to be seen. We want to have other people connecting with us, right? When we get onto social media, seeing everybody else doing it while you're still in development can be hard. When we look at somebody else that's doing such an amazing job, or what we think is such an amazing job, when they're showing us, look at this, isn't it brilliant? And then we go, well, I'm not that brilliant. And my voice isn't that confident. I've had people literally come up to me after seeing my social media pages and they say, I'm never going to be as good of a speaker as you, so I'm just not even, it's a waste of time. I'm not going to try. And I'm like, no, that's exactly the opposite. That's the opposite message that I wanted you to get out of watching my social media. It's not that I'm such a great speaker that you can't be a great speaker. It's that I am a great speaker and I learned how to do this. And you can learn how to do it too. I'm always always breaks my heart a little bit when someone's discouraged after watching my social media. I'm like, wait, did you listen to the message? Because all I want is for people to feel like they can develop their confident voice. So don't come to my pages and then say, I can't do what you can do. Yes, you can. That's why it's here. That's why all of that content is there. And that's why I'm here also. Comparison is one of those things that can stop you before you even start. It's almost subconscious sometimes when we're looking at other people's stuff and we're scrolling through it and we may even be enjoying it. That's the kind of weird thing about comparison, is that we're in this place where we're enjoying what somebody else is doing, but in our head we're going, I could never be that. I could never create this. I could never have that kind of voice. And then it stops us before we start. A bigger kicker here with comparison is that it ignites your imposter syndrome. When you're in that comparison phase, you all of a sudden go into this, well, who am I to be doing this? I'm nobody. I don't know. I'm going to start a podcast. Who's going to listen to it? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Who's going to watch it? Right? We're in this comparison, and then whoop, here comes our imposters. They're kind of cyclical. We get into this, I'm feeling comparison, so now I have imposter syndrome. My imposter kicks in, and then I'm going back to look at all these people that are doing it better than me, and it can kind of go round and round and round until you stop it. These three confidence crushers are the most common ones that I see and hear. I mean, I even hear them from strangers before they've even just in my DMs talking about how they really enjoy what I'm doing, but then also they want to do it too and they feel like they can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Did we learn? Nothing. Yes, we can. So part of the reason that I talk about these things is because these are part of confidence core curriculum. These are I call them confidence crushers. And being aware of your confidence crushers is really the first step to developing your confident voice, because when you don't understand what's hindering you, then you can't address it enough to build the confident voice on top of it. So these are the three most common ones that I've experienced with the people that I work with, but there are also others. Like fear of judgment is one that I hear quite a bit. Fear of public speaking in general, speaking in front of other people. Fear of not knowing what to say, right? Those are all confidence crushers, but with proper preparation, with learning how to handle these confidence crushers, there are definitely things that you can learn how to manage so they're not stopping you from building your confident voice. Okay. So let's get into the 3 keys to creating a confident voice. I'm going to list them off here and then we're going to go through them one by one. I like my list of 3s. So the 3 keys to creating a confident voice, the first one is self-talk. The second one is practice. And the third one is kind of a special one, but the third one is standing up for yourself. I'm really excited to get into that one, but let's go back and talk about self-talk. I know that you hear me talk about self-talk all the time. I think it's very important for those of us who want to be, especially those who want to be leaders, teachers, coaches. You're using your voice with other people. You're either educating them or you're persuading them or you're motivating them. It's really important for you to understand how it is that your self-talk influences your confident speaking voice. Your internal voice is what influences your external voice. Your external voice is 100% created by your internal voice. So your internal voice, if it's got imposter syndrome, if it's got perfectionism, if it's got comparison, that is what the foundation of what it is that's coming out of your mouth, right? And a lot of people like to fake it till you make it. Y'all know I'm not about that life. I'm not about faking it till you make it. I'm about helping you understand how it is that your self-talk is impacting your speaking voice, or how it is that it's impacting whether or not you use your speaking voice. I mean, more people who don't even bother to use their voice than those who actually are using their voice and just want to make it better. This is for those of you who are not using your voice right now. In whatever capacity it is that you want to be using your voice and you're not using your voice, I would start in the head with your self-talk. What is it that your self-talk is saying to you? And how is it that you can reprogram and rewire it so that it actually supports you in creating a confident speaking voice? Redefining your self-talk, reprogramming your self-talk is absolutely essential. And it doesn't matter what it is that you want to do with your confident speaking voice. What matters is that your internal voice and your external voice are meeting each other on some level to support one another. That energy that you build behind your self-talk is the energy that it's going to go into your speaking voice, that is going to have people dying to listen to you. So the second key here is practice. It's never a one and done. Nothing is ever a one and done. When we're talking about creating a confident speaking voice, it's not all of like you listen to a podcast episode, or you watch a video, or you do one worksheet, and then you're like, oh, here's my confident speaking voice. Look, it just showed up. Confident speaking is really about practice. And I know that people don't like to hear the words get into the habit, or it's all about consistency. I know they're really boring and they're really unsexy, but it's really true, especially when it comes to practicing your confident voice. The more you do it, the more confident it becomes, because the more you do it, the more authentic it feels. The more authentic your voice feels in your chest, the more authentic your voice feels coming out of your mouth, the more authentic the words are forming here, and then here, and then here. Okay, so practicing what that is, getting comfortable with it, is really, it's a key for a reason. You gotta do it in order to get that voice to the confidence level you want it to be at. And last, but absolutely not least, this is probably the most important, which is probably why I saved it for last. Learning how to stand up for yourself. Now, I'm not talking about when you're being bullied. I'm not talking about when you need to hit the haters or the hecklers in the comments. That's not what I'm talking about. What does standing up look like? It looks like, what does standing up for yourself look like when creating a confident voice? It looks like you being able to fully communicate yourself to others. Bringing the words that you have in your head out through your voice. And now here's the secret sauce. Here is the secret sauce to a confident voice. Learning how to strongly respond. Learning how to strongly respond and learning how to strongly conversate. Most people I work with are actually able to say what it is that they need to say, right? It's not that they can't take a piece of paper and study it and go out and give it or read it, right? It's saying the things can be really easy when you practice them, right? It's the responding part that can be hard to handle if you don't prepare for it. And do not get me wrong, people will respond. Whether you're online or you're in person, there's going to be comments, there's going to be questions, there's going to be feedback, there's going to be criticism, right? That's the kind of chinky part about using your voice in all these different ways. Now everybody has an opinion, right? You have an opinion and someone else has an opinion about your opinion. Somebody wants to make a comment. Somebody wants to engage with you or connect with you. There's feedback, there's criticism coming in, right? And that's the part that scares people. It's like I said what I said. And it's like, well, I have something to say about what you said. And it's like, I'm not taking any questions. I'm not taking any comments right now, right? But you have to be prepared for people to respond because they want to respond as a way to connect with you. It's not always going to be positive, but sometimes it is. And how strongly can you respond? This is you being able to stand up for yourself, to stand behind your thoughts and your confident voice, being able to have a conversation with somebody else. This is how you build confidence inside your voice, is knowing that no matter what it is that you say, you also have a strong response. And sometimes, just as a little side note, sometimes that response is, I don't know, sometimes that response is, I got to think about that a little bit more. It's not always combative. It's not always having a response to fight, but it's being able to respond in a way that fits with the conversation that's happening, that fits with the feedback that you were given, that fits with the criticism that came your way. And you can say, I can respond to that. And that response can be anything. But the question is, can you respond? Can you confidently respond? Can you prepare your response? The more that you are able to do that, I say that this is a secret sauce because this is the part that a lot of other speaking coaches don't talk about. They don't talk about the response part of it. They give you all the tools that you need to stand up and speak, but they forget the scariest part is when people respond, do you know what to say? And once you do, that confident voice, it's got your back. I created my company, Vibrant Confidence, to help you develop your confident speaking voice. Using a confident voice goes far beyond social media or podcasting or YouTubing. Yes, your confident voice can be used in all of those things, and actually you're going to need it to do all of those things. But a confident voice is something that you can take with you everywhere you go. And when you have a confident voice in your pocket, it opens doors of opportunities that you did not even know existed. Right? Your confident voice is not just for being a business owner, but it's for being a leader. And your leadership skills can go far beyond whatever business it is that you're trying to build right now. It's not just about speaking to speak. It's about speaking with purpose, speaking with conviction. Your confident voice can open those amazing doors for you. And I'm talking about opportunities. I'm talking about collaborations. Most importantly, I'm talking about connection and community. And those of us who are building businesses online, you know the value of collaborations and connection and community. I have so many amazing friends that I've met online through different business circles, through different networking events, people that I've only known online, never actually met in person. And part of that is because I was able to genuinely speak with them. That is the beauty of having a confident voice. It's not just for marketing. It's not just for sales. It's not just for making reels or TikToks. It's about genuinely being able to communicate with the people around you and building that connection and community there. So as you're thinking about developing your confident speaking voice, I want you to know that you can take the skills that you learn behind creating that confident voice for yourself, and you can apply them to so many different places in your life. And that's such a beautiful thing. If you're looking for community, consider yourself found. I am here. I'm always here. Of course, I know you're listening to the podcast, but you can also find me on social media. All of my handles are at Vibrant Amber Rose, and I would love nothing more than to support you as you develop your confident voice. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of Vibrant Voice. I look forward to connecting with you online, and until next episode, please come and message me, tag me, connect with me. I would love to follow you, support you, and be a part of your connected community.